Okay, call this meeting to order at 5:31. Sorry, we're 1 minute late. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda. I got it.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Is there a discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Seeing none opposed, we'll move forward. Declaration of a conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest concerning the public hearing or new business?
Voice this again. I know I've said this 100 times, but I don't like the conflict of interest the way the city has written it, and I think all of us could potentially have a conflict with some of these things. Like, as an example, I own property in a mixed-use zone, but it's not necessarily a direct thing, but the way it's written is poor, in my opinion.
Will you gain personally, financially from it?
Yeah. So would you?
How will I?
Yeah, you will, because your daughter has property in the commercial zone.
I personally gain money from that.
The way it's written is you and your personal family. It's written
It's
that
got to
way.
be within your own home.
No, it said immediate family. It didn't say in your house. I wish it said that, like we talked about
It
before.
could be specified more tightly. like
That's
that.
exactly what it needs to be, more like what the state has, which is like, hey, yeah, all you have to do is declare that you have a conflict. But these are, it's just complicated. Because, yeah, it's possible. I don't know. I don't even know what we're going to do exactly, but I mean, all of these zones that we're talking about is like most of the city. So if anything we change has a financial benefit
To you personally, yeah.
to anyone on the city council or the planning commission, all of us have to sit down there. Just saying. So I definitely have a conflict on some of these that I own property in, and I would argue that most of us do. But it just depends on what we decide to do.
I don't have any conflicts of interest.
Do I have to have an interest before I have a conflict? Just kidding. Okay. Do we want to address this again in a formal setting elsewhere? Can we?
What do you mean?
Like bring up
Your
the declaration
concerns,
of conflict of interest
I
again.
think it's really the
Is
city.
there nothing that we can really do here?
I think the city council has to decide.
We,
I personally,
I will accept a motion to,
I'll just bring it up in the
We-
next meeting.
yeah, I think it's
Okay.
good. Well, and I think
I'll
it's,
just see if we can't clarify it a little bit tighter.
yeah, I think it should go back to the way it was and then just
Yeah,
put the.
I don't, but
just put-
we can have that debate.
I mean, just put the exception for the employees, the way it was changed was for the employees so
Right.
that they can't, but you can just put, if you're an employee, then these rules apply. If you're not an employee, then,
And I think the lawyer said we couldn't do that, and that's why we tried to find another way around that. But we could have that discussion for sure.
yeah, we should, because the way I read it and the way it might actually be perceived, I guess, is different. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. Wish I was. But yeah, we'll work it out.
make a motion to recommend to the city council the rehashing of the declaration of conflict of interest.
Well, we talked about it a few different times, but I'm not sure if it ever made it back to the city council or not.
I mean, as an
Yeah.
official act.
I personally don't think that they know what they passed. Like, if you went and asked somebody what it says, I'll bet that most of them wouldn't be able to describe what it says. Because what you're saying and what it says are not the same.
We'll discuss it in the next one.
So,
Okay.
Could you, Jeff, ask Lindsay to add that to the workshop? Thank you.
Okay. Sweet. Moving on. Public comments. You have 3 minutes. What? Sorry, I'll look at that chair over there. You have 3 minutes. If you would like to speak, please come up to the podium, say your name. Seeing none, we'll move on. Okay. Approval of the minutes, September 9th, 2025.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for September 9th, 2025.
Been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of September 9th, 2025. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? No opposed. So we will approve the minutes. Approval of the 2026 Planning Commission annual schedule, which we are so graciously prepared for. So is 5:30 p.m. still a good time?
That works best, I think, for
Yeah.
for me.
Agreed. Looks like every month has two except December. And this is, we're not, as times pass, I'm assuming we're like, if there's no business or whatever, we won't have, right? We're not committing to two every month. Okay.
I'll move that we approve it.
It's been moved that we approve the 2026 Planning Commission annual schedule. Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been seconded. All in favor, say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. Seeing no opposed, we approve the 2026 Planning Commission annual schedule. Public hearing, number 6. To receive public input on proposed amendments to Chapter 1.10 Public Facilities Zone Districts, Chapter 1.11 Sensitive Area Zone District / Protection Area Zone District, Chapter 1.12 Flood Damage Protection Overlay Zone District, Chapter 1.13 Sexually Oriented Business Overlay Zone District, Chapter 1.14, and Chapter 1.15 Water Resource Protection Overlay Zone District. Public input, okay. Seeing, I think we're gonna move on. To receive, what,
I guess, did you open it and then we need to close
yeah,
it? Then we need to close the public hearing if nobody's.
okay. Yeah, that's opening it. I'm gonna open that and then. If,
We're no longer interesting.
are we supposed to like move to close it? Or do I just close it?
I think you just have to close it, just
Okay.
so it's clear that it doesn't keep going.
Okay, we're going to close the section A now and open section B to receive public input on proposed amendments to Chapter 1.09 Mixed Use Zone District. And we're going to close that one, seeing no discussion. Okay, point 7, new business. Discussion and consideration of already mentioned sections.
What? I'll pull it up. It's over,
1 point.
it's over in the packet inputs, the chapter 1.15. Special purpose overlay zones. Let's see here, we'll get around to it. In short, I have wanted to make room for new code that I hope to put into the zoning ordinances. And the simplest way I found to make room was to just shove chapter 1.1, 1.11, 1.12, 1.13 all into 1.15 and rename it. So substantively, nothing has changed. It's just shoving 5 chapters into one so we could have room to build out some of our codes, like the Main Street mixed use that's coming up. So substantially, yeah, nothing altered. I just wanted to play copy and paste for in about an hour or so and reformat it. And Mark read it well enough, he found where I missed a D. Or we're the person that originally typed it
job,
missed
Mark.
a D. So
Now,
I don't really have any other presentation rather than that.
As I read through it, I did have a couple of questions, and I just have to go from memory. In the chart that shows the layout of all the, permitted and conditional,
Oh, that's
And-
on
Yeah.
chapter 9. We are.
all that looked great.
Okay,
then-
that's all we're talking about right now.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna want to get to the next one in a
Yeah.
little bit.
So,
I did have one question though about what kind of sexually oriented businesses would we allow in our community?
So far, none.
Well, we have to clarify how that's said. Technically, you have to allow a place for them in your city. You can't ban them. Like, you can't ban them
They
across.
still have to be approved, right, by the,
Yeah, like a brothel or
Adult-
something of that nature.
adult
Massage
content.
parlor or, any.
So they just have to meet the
Cleveland Browns
state
training
codes.
facility, like,
wow.
Yeah, whatever it is.
So someday they're gonna come.
so we don't even have a spot where they're really zoned. We just have like Micah said, we have to have, regulations around what it would take to have them. You can't just ban them.
Well, they are allowed in the manufacturing zone currently.
You're right.
So like over by Auto Leave and some of the places that are zone manufacturing could technically have them there.
I want them by my house.
You know, that's,
The ones we have are pretty
Extensive.
pretty set out there.
Yeah, but there is a place where they could
Yeah.
potentially go. That's, I guess,
it's nice that most of us don't know about that.
yeah.
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 So, perfect. Seeing
any other questions?
no more discussion on these, we'll close section A and move to section B.
We probably need a
Probably need to
motion.
make a motion.
Oh, do we? Yes. Okay. So we accept, make a motion. I will accept a motion to approve the changes,
And
recommend the changes to be approved.
recommend the changes to the city council for approval.
Doing great.
I just need like a
I'll get a teleprompter.
card that just says, this is the
Right
exact
now, I'll just
verbiage of,
Order teleprompter for,
no, that's not what I need. That's definitely not what I need. For section A, all those in favor of,
I make a motion to
good, thank you.
recommend approval of 6A,
7.
an A.
7A. Approval of 7A to the city council as modified.
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend modifications for section 7A to the city council. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. The motion passes.
Is Mark on?
This is Landmark Design,
Yes. That'd be Mark.
and you want me to do the presentation?
Yeah, or his presentation if did he send it over? Okay, that was Mike. Did he not send his over? Okay,
What changed in this code? I didn't really see the,
chapter 9.
yeah.
Oh, we're about to get into it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I didn't see it. There was some highlighted in yellow, but I wasn't sure what exactly had changed.
So, Mark is online. He is one of the senior code writers with Landmark Design, and he's helped. So we are just presenting this tonight to help the planning commission members understand how to read the packet that I have printed out and put in front of each of you. I emailed it out as well as a OneDrive link. But this is our
Early morning reading.
this is our new standard. So, Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Do you have a presentation you could email over, or do you want to go off?
Can I just share it, or,
Yeah, you can share yours.
okay, should I do that now?
Yeah,
And am I ready to go?
you are ready to go.
Okay. Well,
Mark, Shannon.
thanks. Let me make sure I can pull up the right thing here. Okay, do you see the presentation now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for inviting me here this evening. Just so that you're aware, I'm filling in for Sam Taylor, who you probably work with all the time and know him. He and I work closely together, especially on code writing, and I've been involved in this project more off than on recently, but in the beginning stages was working closely with the rest of the group. So I'm familiar with the code. I didn't know that there were a lot of changes to Chapter 9, so maybe that's something that Jeff can take over when we get to that point. And according to my discussions with Sam, maybe the best part to start here was just a synopsis of the code and how it's laid out and how the Planning Commission and members of the public, developers and designers will use the code. So if you, do I have 10 or 15 minutes to go through that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me, okay, so, sorry. Okay, I think we'll start here is, why do we need a mixed use code? It was really in response to your recently adopted in 2023, the land use plan. There was a new vision. The vision really focused on establishing Main Street corridor as something that was very important to the city, and to come up with, was actually a recommendation to come up with a new code for that and other areas so that as development happens, it meets the vision. Probably all are aware of this, but the code is compiled of 4 sub-districts that are shown here. But together it's known as the code area. It goes from west from I-84 up to close to the east boundaries of the city. And these 4 districts respond to sort of the surroundings and also what the vision is.
Hey, Mark,
What makes it yes?
could you expand that? We've got half your screen showing the presentation, and then the other half is your,
Oh, you don't have the full screen then.
yeah, back.
Oh, sorry. Okay. It's getting too fancy there. One moment.
There we
How's
go.
that?
That's better.
Good. So I hope everybody can see that. And I hope that everybody has a copy, either accessible or you can review it later, and I'm sure you will, of these are images straight out of the code itself. So everything that I'm showing here tonight, you'll be able to take a look at. So, it really focuses on, this new code is a different kind of code in that it really focuses on creating the types of uses and buildings that were envisioned. It focuses much more than the other codes that we have in place on design and on the layout of buildings and their relationship to the streets. And so the physical capacities of the code and what we're trying to achieve. Building form, the height, those other things that are much more detailed, but also the structure of the code is that once your staff and others get used to it, it's actually a very simple tool to review and go through. It doesn't have a lot of areas into it that you have to make a lot of decisions. It serves well for a limited staff like you have to use sort of a checklist system. I've operated on a few of them myself over the years as staff or planning advisors, and it's something that it's something that can really work well for a smaller community. The code is divided into 10 chapters. So you can see here, we'll start with a discussion of districts. That then goes into the sub-districts, what we kind of went over now, that you have these 4 sub-districts. We then talk about street types, which is a general discussion about how streets, new streets in particular, will work in a couple of these sub-districts. We then go to uses, and most of the other codes that you have in place focus very much on use instead of form and layout. And it's still important in here, but it's not, I'd say it's not as important as some of the other chapters, such as building types and the landscape standards and street types and sign types. It's something that is pretty easy to determine whether something fits in or not, and if not, there has a procedure for either changing it or accepting that and asking the applicant to move on with a different type of use. So just a quick summary, the districts is really, this is your district, the entire 4 areas just in one. That's what we're calling our Main Street district, and you can see how it stretches from Freeway to the east. As part of this, we are also looking at major and primary streets, secondary streets, and how development will relate to those streets. So you have your main primary street is Main Street, which is shown in light blue, and 4800 East, larger streets. State, at least in the case of Main Street, something that's a state road or has been a state road. Primary Street B is where they're not quite as big, but they have, so what we're talking about is a facade priority, and that means that the relationship of the building facade is important, increasingly important, or less important, I guess it depends on the smaller streets as you move forward. We're trying to establish the sense of a street wall on many of these, meaning that we have a consistent row or vertical presence on the street rather than, for example, a lot of parking lots first and then buildings set way far behind. The 4 sub-districts are, you can see here, the fairgrounds. This is from west to east. I'm sorry, it isn't from west to east, but it's the fairgrounds, the downtown, the historic downtown area, suburban sub-district, which is the small, narrow strip, and then furthest to the east is the Crossroads sub-district. So you can see these here, and fairground to the west, and making your way forward. And you can see that in some cases they're extending further in north and south, and in the case of the suburban, really just addressing uses and buildings along the street frontage itself. And here you can kind of read here about what the general intent is. The fairgrounds is really trying to take this area that's very important for highway type uses and travelers and make it into something more than just only having really an image of a big parking lot in the front. Whereas the downtown sub-district is really trying to recognize the importance of your historic part of the city and have uses that match with what you already have there and what you want to preserve. And suburban is really this transition district between Crossroads and downtown. And then you have to the east at the end, this gateway district, Crossroads, which is on the key streets, the primary streets. It's really focused on restaurants, groceries, commercial type uses, and on the other streets it's a range of housing types of uses. So you're creating a neighborhood basically. The third chapter, street types, it just really describes what the configurations in the 2 sub-districts, downtown and Crossroads, this is where it applies. If there are new roads that are going to be included, what the expectations are and how they should be designed. So this is just a general section of what we're talking about as far as the configuration of a typical street. But you can see that it doesn't just include the roadway and the edges of the street. It also talks a lot about the sidewalk zones, the pedestrian zones, and where you might have a bike lane. If there was a road that has a bike lane. So that as things change over time and you're working with perhaps UDOT and others and changing your roads, that these things become very important for making modifications in the future. The uses, as I mentioned, are very similar to the description to what you've had for uses in your existing codes. It really that you look at your sub-district and you see what would be permitted in your sub-district. And permitting, it has three categories. It's outright permitted, there's conditional uses, or that it requires some special treatments. Most of them fit into outright permitted, but the key thing is rather than listing every potential use in the world, we put in uses that were more universal, and then things that aren't listed, there's a set of rules here for if it's not listed, but it's similar to one that would be permitted or allowed, then that's permitted outright, where if it's interpreted by the zoning administrator that it isn't, it's not permitted, and if you want to include it, then you would have to modify the zoning ordinance to include it. So it's an opportunity to have some control over uses and to have a pretty clear-cut way of making determinations of whether a use is permitted or not. The building types, in my opinion and from my experience, is probably the most important chapter. It's not, you're thinking, oh, this is all about architecture, but it's much more than that. It's really talks about the forms and the relationships of buildings on individual project sites and how they relate within their site to the parking and other things, but also to neighboring uses. As you can see here, for each of the 4 sub-districts, which are shown on the top part of this matrix, it shows the types of buildings that we have in the code. And they're either permitted or they're not permitted. And so, for example, Fairgrounds permits large storefront buildings. And then if we go to one that's talking about storefront, they're permitted in 3 of the 4 districts. And as you see on the right-hand side of your screen, this is basically for a storefront building. Once you identify that it's permitted in your sub-district, you go through this sort of, like I mentioned, checklist, and it breaks it down to siting issues, height issues, uses, and the street facade, and then the roof type requirements. There's also some general discussions about things that apply to all the building types that are at the beginning of the chapter, and then others that also apply to all the building types, which are more like materials and things like that. So it's a really interesting way of laying this out. We find that developers and architects, once they get used to it, really like this because it allows them to figure out what they can get on their property, how it fits in with their vision, and how they can sort of make things work out. So it becomes a bit of an interesting puzzle for people that like doing that sort of thing. And so I think that's a very positive, instead of having to negotiate and come and be sent to the drawing board multiple times. They come up with a concept, and if it's on track, they proceed down that road until they get something that meets the requirements of the code, and it can be approved. This is just some of the other key items out of this chapter. How the building should look, how many stories they might be. If you have a higher building, then you might normally have what you have to do as far as stepping it back so that you don't get shade and shadow all over and it doesn't impact on neighbors' uses and stuff like that. So again, very focused on the structure and form of the buildings and the lots. Open space, from my experience, it's great to have this in here, and what I really like with the way that you have done this is that you haven't added just a ton of open space types. You've narrowed it down to 3 types that are appropriate for your zone here, your district. And I think that's really great because, to be honest, most of the others, which might be an open space corridor or a stream corridor, they just don't apply. And so within this district, if and when there will be any open spaces, these are the 3 general types. These are just images of what they might look like: a plaza, a pocket park, which is a small park, usually under an acre, and then a park. And because this is a fairly constrained area with limited space, the parks here would probably be smaller and not a 10 or 20 acre park, possibly, but most likely it would focus on these smaller parks that might serve this new type of development and the type of people living there better. We then have landscape standards, and the key thing on this is that this chapter works hand in hand with your existing general landscape requirement code. So that this does not replace it, but if there is a conflict between the two, this code what's contained in this code will trump what's in the general landscape code. So that's a good thing to remember. It's again getting into more about the details of, like, for example, your existing code really establishes water rights stuff. And it does a very good job out of it. This one might go into greater detail of the types of plants along the street, what you want for the look of it, or what type of trees more specifically might be permitted in a certain area. So it's really more about the details, and again, that whoever's going to put these together and be reviewing them, they have to look at both codes as they're doing it, but it's pretty simple. And then these are just the goals. That we start out every chapter with goals or principles, why this is being done and how they work in Tremont. Parking, this is, again, the goals or the reason we're doing this is just to make sure that you have all the parking is adequate. And we're talking about parking primarily of vehicles. There are, I believe, a discussion about bicycle parking if required, where it's required, and what the requirements would be for that. But it's really a discussion about make sure that you have adequate parking, this is parking on the private lots in particular, whether it's surface parking or if somebody it's probably not likely right now, but there would be an opportunity to have structured parking that would also be discussed here. But we're also in this code referring other chapters that they have to take a look. We don't want to get into the situation where this code says something and then it gets updated and it doesn't match what was in the other code. So rather than doing that, you just have to make sure that you're looking at these other existing code references that deal with parking, and then look at this on top of it. And that gives you a clear sense, particularly about the numbers of parking, the sizes of parking spaces and back out lanes and stuff like that. Sign types, this is the chapter where there were some changes. They apply to all non-residential uses only, and we have, I believe, there's 8 types of signs. I just have a sample of the pedestrian scale pole-mounted sign graphics from the plan. As you'll notice, this code, this ordinance is graphic rich, and that's by intent. We want to make it very easy for designers and everybody else to understand what the intent is. We use a lot of images of comparable buildings or comparable situations, so it's clear for people what we mean and what we're trying to achieve. And we didn't just pick those out of a hat. We went through in the early stages and tried to dial in, like, this district, how high should we go? How tall should it be? What should the space be between buildings? And that was the first few months that we really looked at this, sort of calibrating the uses to the situation that you have in Tremont. And then I think this is a very important chapter as well, just like you have administrative components to your existing codes, typically at the beginning of your city ordinance or your municipal ordinance. We've provided our own administration for this code itself, and it really clarifies the processes for approving your site plan. If there's requests for exceptions and variances, and just to let you know, exceptions are really minor changes or modifications for the situation where you might be off by a few inches, that sort of thing. It's not major changes. If a project project didn't meet the requirements of the code without a major change, that would mean, they would have to revise it, or we would have to change the ordinance itself to accommodate that. So those things won't be taken lightly. And then it also it clarifies who's making the decisions at certain times, who on staff, and then just at the end is a discussion of terms that are used throughout the code. So if you have any question about what is meant by something, turn to the back section of chapter 10 and it will clarify all of the key phrases used throughout the code. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
I wanted to introduce you guys to Mark too as part of this, because for our next meeting, I will be out of town, but Sam and I believe Mark too will be here to start going through and discussing these chapters. So I wanted to get it in front of you so you guys had 2 full weeks of ignoring it, and then you can come ready to discuss it. So thank you, Mark.
Okay, I'll stop sharing now.
Okay.
How's the proposal work with like the existing overlay zones? Are they going to be accepted out?
Yeah, so we'll, that's something I haven't come to a consensus with yet, is what to do with the Tremont overlay zone. But
Well, there's multiple, because we'd have like River's Edge.
River's Edge is outside of this.
It's not,
Oh, no, that spot on.
the front
yeah.
part of it is still in the suburban.
That part, yeah.
So that's
So
something to,
We'd have River's Edge,
have
we'd
to
have
talk
Tremont
about.
Center, and I don't know, there's probably some out west too. I don't know if they were done with overlays or not, but
I don't know if anything out there has an overlay, but you're right, River's Edge and,
I just wondered how that was going to
Yeah.
apply. If we're gonna cut them out, or if we're going, how that's gonna work.
I want to get them included in, because you cut them out, then you come back and have to reconfigure.
well, most of them too are already under existing development agreements or master plan communities, so I don't think we'd have the ability to
That's kind of my thought.
overwrite them. But I'd like to leave this in place so that if there was ever any, not that this is where it would start, but that if there were any large changes or something, that this is the code that would apply to help try to build that continuity. But I don't think it's code that we would, even with it being adopted because of where those developments are with their vested rights, I don't think we'd be able to override what currently has been master planned there. So that's my gut.
I also was
For
gonna
that
ask
question.
if Mark's still on, where is the civic standards? It says there's a civic build type.
Right, there's, civic would be typically requirements for a building for a city hall or something like that.
Well, yeah.
And so there's a specific building type for that, I believe. Is that correct? I haven't looked at it in a
Yeah, there's a
a
building
while,
type
but-
for civic building,
Ye-
but there's no
yeah.
section for it.
There's no what?
There's no section for it.
No, so what you would do is, like I said, you would go through the code and you start with chapter 1 and see what the district and sub-district, and if there's any streets. And when you get to uses, you just make sure that the district that you're proposing a civic building to go in allows a civic building. I would think that most of them do. And then what would be really important is to make sure that when you get to the building types, that the civic building is that you follow that as you design it. So if it's not, I don't know what they call it. I don't have my code up here right now, but because I haven't been looking at this for a while. Let me take a look.
Well, just what I had seen, every type of building has like a chapter that goes through the requirements and
Right.
set for the civic.
Oh, well,
That's just.
well, there
basically
is
our
there
master
is a
plan
civic
for
build.
use.
So it's a civic building use type. And if you go to page
Yeah, like 5.0 shows the building types, the civic building, and then it goes through the large storefront, the general stoop, the limited.
Oh, so it seems to be missing, Jeff. So I'll talk to Sam about that. It stops at row building.
Yeah, that's what, well, I think the yard building, oh no, maybe the yard building's missing too.
Yard building 5.8.
Okay, I'll have to talk to Sam about that in the morning. Great catch. I don't know, I assume, Jeff, that that's not by purpose, is that correct?
No.
So the yard building and civic are, is that what you said are missing?
Yeah, yard and civic.
Okay. Great, you probably were thinking, what the heck's he talking about?
Actually, maybe the
Yard
large,
building's there, it's 5.8.
I think the large storefront, maybe, depending on, I guess, if it's if it's considered the large format.
Okay, so and that's not the same language, it's not called the
Page
same thing.
34 is probably supposed to be the large storefront, but it says large format, but it's probably that
Okay,
storefront.
we'll get this, I'll talk to Sam tomorrow, we'll get this taken care of right away and get you updated copies of the code then.
Little building yard, but yeah, only the civic one is missing, I think.
It's fine, we're not really planning for new buildings.
Well, yeah, but I know, but if we're gonna put the screws to everybody else, we should put the screws to the city to meet. Because what we've seen, I don't know if you've noticed, but like right now, a lot of the requirements for all of us in the developer world are not adhered to by the city. Like when they put in the parking lots, they don't adhere to what the code says. They just do whatever they want to do. But we should.
And you're correct though, that
Yeah.
you don't know what's gonna happen in 2 years or a year, right?
Right.
Things could change dramatically. So it would be good to, if you want to have a place for civic building in case it ever comes, and that seems something that's beneficial, you should keep it there. And otherwise, you'd have to write a whole new section and update the code if you ever wanted to put a civic building anywhere within this district.
Okay. Fantastic work. I'm a little embarrassed. I've read this like 4 or 5 times, never copied.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's gonna take some, like, applying it.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to apply it to some existing projects and just see how it would change, like, for the worse or the better, and also what the potential cost would be, because, I mean, part of it in my gut is that, you know, a lot of these could be implemented without a ton of cost, but if we're going to we're having a hard time, like, redeveloping the downtown as it is, and to come in and throw 100 pages of, you know, detailed, costly, expensive requirements for all these things. I mean, some of them are necessary, but it would just be interesting to try to see, okay, if we did like the tire shop project in this code,
Yeah.
what would the cost differences be, and would it even be possible to build? Do you know what I mean?
So will this apply to people, like businesses downtown that just wanna like remodel?
No, there's provisions in it, and as you get in and you'll see how much they'd have to change of their exterior before this would apply. And so we were trying to be sensitive to the fact that this is the first ever attempt at code like this in Tremonton. And so we wanted to make sure that, and I feel like we got pretty close with a border that says, okay, if you cross this, it's a substantial enough change to trigger the code, but if not, then it's okay. But I mean, we're gonna get down that as we start looking into what facade grants the rest of the RDA funding can generate, to see what of this, how costly is it to bring stuff, and what's the priority list in, like, is it signs, is it like new exterior just on facing Main Street, like how expensive is it to build? But I've had meetings with a commercial developer already, and when we walked them through this, they were just like, oh, we've seen stuff like this before, and just, they took it a lot easier than they took UDOT's feedback. So it's one of those that I think if we can set expectations out the gate, like Mark said, architects and design professionals are good about meeting this kind of code.
It gives them a lot of flexibility the otherwise wouldn't have, and also a lot of opportunity to try to see what they could fit onto a site and be creative with it, but through the code. So there's and that's why I think you typically end up with a lot better projects. As far as the costs, I think it's I'm not sure that there would be more costs other than maybe if there's more material requirements. The cost would be how much parking you would need to allow your building to be maximized. And so that's where they usually start. They'll do a site plan to figure out how many parking spaces and how many floors they can go up and down, and they can kind of go back and forth and play with it. And once they've got that sort of established, that tells them their general cost trade-offs, which is, rentable floor space or commercial floor space to the amount of total lot size that they have. That gives them their big picture numbers. But there is probably more requirements for additional glazing and higher finishes at the ground level, particularly on the front facade, but nothing that's probably a whole lot different than you might see in most other communities. So I don't think it's going to be, it would be interesting, like you say, to see that, but test it. But that's a pretty big process. One thing I could say here is I've been involved with 2 or 3 of these from the ground up, and then been the contract reviewer on them. And I think that what you should be prepared for is there will be adjustments. You'll find things that don't quite work, or that don't work the way that you want. And that's just, and we knew that going in all of those, that there would be a teething period of a year or so. And then we just make changes. But we didn't do it every meeting of the Planning Commission, City Council. We would just keep note of them, and when it got to a crucial point, we would put all of them, we'd do reports on them, what our recommendations were, and then take them forward to Planning Commission, and they'd be forward to City Council for approval. And then you dealt with it, and that just makes it so that in one that I've worked on for several years, they just haven't made any changes for years now because it works pretty seamlessly.
Did you said you submitted this to UDOT already?
No, I met with a commercial development that's exploring Tremont, and we had a meeting with UDOT about their permit, their right-of-way encroachment permit, and then a meeting right after that to talk about these standards. And a quick Google search gave us some really good examples to kind of guide them towards. And like the architects were just like, okay, yeah, we can do that. So I'm hoping we can get some feedback from them to maybe see what could be clearer, if we're missing a whole building type perhaps, but yeah, I with trying something this new, there's definitely going to be, I like teething pains. It's a very close to the heart one after having a couple toddlers, so it feels right.
But is that the proposed downtown street layout on page 20? Is that what we're kind of aiming for, or is?
I get to page 20.
I'm not sure if we have that much room on parts of the downtown. But generally, I like the bollards. I like the ability to, as UDOT redoes their thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that should be, ideally, that's the street section we hope to bring in the long run, but.
But are we defining that? like now, so when UDOT does their thing and wants to come back and says, okay, what's your plan? And as we
Yeah.
redo sidewalks and all that,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the point of this though, is to put that into the plan and work it with it on the right of way so that where we have the space, we can show them that like, this is what we're hoping to do with it. It might be tough through the more narrow section through downtown, but, I think having a center median and some wider spaces like that could, would help with decorating Main Street more. So,
Yeah, or even if we have to take the median out in some places to get the footage, you know, on the sides and then turn it in for the turn lane, you know?
yeah. Which, I mean, that's what you see a lot down Washington Boulevard in Ogden is, you know, and, North Temple has the same, North Temple and South Temple both have islands down them now, so. Yeah, there's, you put the medians in and where you need turn lanes or traffic flow for directions, you taper them like it shows. So. Okay. If you guys don't mind tabling this, then we can try to wrap up, chapter 8 tonight.
Make a motion to table 7B.
This is gonna be a slow burn, by the way, like, this is not gonna, my hope though is that we can continue working on this and answer questions, but we'll see how the discussion goes on the 28th.
It's been moved that we table 7B. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And seconded. All in favor of tabling 7B, discussion and consideration of Chapter 1.09 Mixed Use Zone District, say, on favor, say yes.
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 Thank you, Mark, unless he's gone. Okay.
Okay.
Everyone familiar with chapter 8? Did you like the clean? I can't remember who recommended the clean copy because you've started shuffling around from
That was
meeting to
me,
meeting. So I'm like, I pictured there was someone over here, but then I was like, I don't remember, but it was you, Jack. So
Yeah, I was over there then.
just our floater. I don't know if you guys want me to walk through it or if you just want to jump into if you guys have any questions on what's being proposed with this. Mike, to answer your question, we feel like the enforcement on excessive water consumption would be best through their business licenses. So we could, as they have to come in and renew those year over year, that we'd be able to review how much water they projected using, and if there is that big of an assessment, then be able to have a discussion through their business license.
Is that what we're gonna put in the code, or that's what's already in the code?
Well, Greg, Officer Horspool and I have agreed that we need to start having just not generic business licenses for everyone, but start having some specifics for business licenses. Different types. So I think our business licenses are in the revised ordinances, but we're gonna work up on updating those, and having that different types of licenses. So that was what we discussed and thought would be a little bit more enforceable, so that if there is an overage in their usage, that as they come in, we can either assess them a fee or have a discussion on why they used so much more.
Yeah, well, I think most businesses are fine. I mean, if you have 10 more employees and you use an extra 20,000 gallons, you know, in a year for an extra bathroom, it's not that big of a deal. But I'd love to see like West Liberty Foods, like
Oh, yeah.
what they were approved with originally, what they paid impact fees on, and then what they've used on an annual basis to now. I don't know what they are, but I have a hunch.
Well, and right now, we don't have impact fees for commercial or industrial uses because it's hard to standardize what their water consumptions are. So, And most of the time, because we can get a greater amount of property tax from them, as well as like I said, with this new business license, normally that's how we rationale offsetting those, not collecting impact fees at the building permits.
Were those building permit types in that chart towards the end of this chapter? Is that where we saw that?
There are some uses, there's a couple use and lot regulation tables in here, but there isn't anything about, there isn't as much about building types in this code.
Go towards the end.
Oh, wait, way far.
Oh, why did I highlight that yellow? Anyway, oh, because the numbering of it.
Uh,
What are you looking at, Jack?
It was in that neighborhood. I did have a question about this chart. It seems like the heavy industrial use has kind of small footprints. 20,000 square feet for heavy industrial use didn't seem,
That's the minimum size. So, I mean, you can be as big as you want. We're just saying the minimum lot size you could have for industrial is either 10,000 or 20,000 square feet, which is small.
yeah.
But if you're gonna do more of like an office space or something that small shipping, but yeah, 10,000's most time though, you get lots that are a lot bigger than that. So I don't think we'd see anything that's really designed to that.
Was that the
scale.
chart too that had the different heights?
Yeah.
And those heights seemed kind of excessive for the footprint, but that, like you say, the footprint can change according to the size
Yeah.
that they're gonna build. Like there was one, like 7-story possible in height.
Yeah, in the commercial zones.
Yeah,
Obviously, no one's built a 7-story building yet in
No.
Tremonton. Although I was trying to measure out to see if the top of the post buildings was how close that was in feet, but my iPhone, I don't think it should be a trusted measuring device from 1,000 north. So,
yeah, it's 3 industrial stories high, so, probably 20 foot,
yeah, so 60 to 70 feet.
yeah,
tall,
60,
probably.
70, yeah.
Probably about, no, I don't know how tall they are. So,
Was there a chart on page 7? A continuation of that chart? Yeah, there's the heights.
5 feet, 7-story.
do you guys really want to be out of here by 6:30, or like we've covered this enough that the questions are?
No, I'm still looking for that clean copy, so.
I sent it to you.
I saw the clean copy in what you sent, so. I know,
Funny,
I know it's
how-
there.
It's funny how much shorter it is. Like, you
Yeah.
take all the changes out, and I was like, oh,
It was a lot easier reading.
yeah. It's nice because the people that host our city code, I can send them both copies, and then they can already they can go through and see like what they need to change on theirs. So
I don't know. I have a lot of questions on some of this stuff. I don't understand why we, like business office, why wouldn't we allow that in the CD, the CG, the CH, and the CN zones? And why we would allow preschool, major or minor, only in the CD, but not in some of the other zones? I mean, I
I could
understand.
ask, focus on the industrial parts. We're gonna go clean up the commercials here in a minute.
Oh,
But I agree. I'm not sure. But honestly, like a lot of those commercial zones are going to be absorbed into the Main Street one. So we're going to go through and after the Main Street code is adopted, go through and clean up, because most of our commercial zones now will be part of the mixed-use zones. So really, we'll just be down to like we might do like 1 or 2 commercial zones just to, if we need to have them like somewhere else, like if we want, like with the possible annexation on the hill, if we wanted to be able to show commercial or mixed use up there, but that'll be the discussion to kind of have as we move forward in the commercial zone, and or with all of this is how we want to proportion out, the land use stuff. And then with the updates the city council is asking for on the general and integrated land use plans, that'll be the avenue to have these discussions. So any questions on the updates to the industrial codes? Cool. Guys, 640, we could really do 640.
A lot of information for my brain today. That's where I'm at. So. I can accept a motion,
So
whatever you want, but if you want to keep discussing or.
do we want to pass all of these together?
What?
Like this and this, like tweak them so that they match? Or we're gonna change this, then we're gonna change this, then we're gonna come back and change this again?
Well, my hope was that we would actually get each one of them to have their own chapters, which is why we shoved 10 through 14 into 15, so that commercial would have its own, or residential has its own, commercial has its own, industrial has its own, and our Main Street mixed use has its own. And that way we can get out, because I would say about half this chapter has absolutely no industrial implications to it. So if we feel like there's an issue, we can just look at the industrial code as its own and not be picking through. So my hope is that the numbering would be residential is like,
But why are we modifying this then? Why don't we just create those chapters?
because I don't feel like our industrial code's ready if the inland port wanted to be annexed tomorrow. So, and I didn't know a reason to really go through and update all the commercial zones when literally all but one commercial spot in Tremont is put into the Main Street code. Like if the Main Street code became effective, the only commercial spot that is left out of it is what's on 600 North. There isn't any other commercial zone properties in Tremont that are outside of the Main Street code.
Why don't we put 600 North in?
Because I didn't know how to get a Main Street code of that far north and have it be legitimate.
Without affecting a bunch of other space.
And that's why I think we end up keeping we either have a discussion of getting rid of our commercial zones and turn everything into mixed use, or we've had one here called neighborhood commercial. But that's really only, sorry, let me speak. There's 2 commercial zones. There's like 2 parcels on 1000 North zone neighborhood commercial. So I agree, our commercial zone needs a lot of updating, but to me, the Main Street mixed use code will take over a lot of those.
So, like, we're not gonna allow storage units anywhere in the city?
We never have. I don't know
I thought it
how,
was allowed in the MDB zone.
not as it currently reads.
It was, because that piece behind,
The Civics Club, or over by the,
the piece behind where CNR used to be, we sold that piece to some guys that were gonna build storage units.
They're conditionally permitted.
But they're allowed, they're just conditional use.
Yeah.
But in this change, it's taking that out and making everything not allowed.
So with one of the changes I'd like to make to the residential code, we put them in, to me, storage units should be by high density residential, because that's the group that needs them most of the time. And so I was gonna put them in spots where we zone for high density residential and allow them to be permitted in those, instead of having them in commercial or industrial, because most of our zoning is residential. And self-service storage units normally don't require the traffic flow of industrial ground.
Put them in a residential area, I mean, some people looked at, because I know we've got the one just off of 6 North and about 1,000 West that,
Yeah.
is there. And there are 2 houses between it. But, yeah, like you say, the traffic is very light, but would there be people that would be saying, I don't want that in my backyard, looking at that through my backyard window or my front window all the time? I don't know. It's
My
just-
hope with storage units is, for example, with Matheson, you would take one of those buildings and turn it into a multi-story storage unit that serves the complex.
Well, and Matheson has already done that. Most of those projects already have built them in. I would bet the bulk of the storage in town is actually from other residents, not the multifamily. I mean, there's some of them that have it, but any of the new projects like Matheson, they've already got a bunch of storage units.
I think they call them garages. but
Garages,
yeah.
yeah, kind of similar thing. I don't know. I just think it should be allowed somewhere, and I'm not sure that anybody would be mad if somebody built storage units like in the manufacturing zone by Multomill as an example, or, I think we'd still rather have them there than we would have them right in the middle of a large subdivision, although I don't know that would be terrible there.
Unless you could, make the facade and, the landscape around it, make it look appealing, so it's not like a sore thumb sticking out
Yeah.
there.
We don't live in a big enough community. It's that far to drive to.
Yeah,
Well, that's
To one.
but some
true,
of it
but-
is you want,
I'd
like-
just prefer if people would get rid of stuff.
yeah.
Jeff doesn't always get what Jeff wants, though.
Is someone that's cleaned out 3 great aunts' house and 2 grandparents, like, please, it just ends up all in the same spot anyway.
Gift that keeps on giving.
But it's valuable. But the thing is, I guess in neighborhoods, like, I feel like if you design it so you can see through the gates, the storage facilities will probably be safer and more policed if you're in a neighborhood, because you can see
what's going on.
see down the rows, and there's not, shady stuff going on. But the more you seal them up and like make them invisible, then they're invisible.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but just make them look appealing though, so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they
yeah.
don't stick out like a
Sure.
block building.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like banning it from the whole city, I guess. Just because, I think there's a need there. And you know how it works around here. When you ban something, trying to get it opened back up is just not as easy as it is banning it. And I personally don't even think it's legal. That's why the SOBs are allowed, But so have you modified the residential stuff then to allow for that?
Well, not yet, because it was gonna go industrial, mixed use, so residential, so there'd be a short window where technically any new wouldn't be allowed, but my hope was that we'd be able to get through that in about 6 or so months, and then be able to update the residential one, so that would be the area they're permitted in. But if there's somewhere, if that's something that we'd like to put into one of the manufacturing zones and leave it as conditional, I'm happy to follow the commission's recommendation.
I just think, if I bought a property with the intent to put storage units on it in that zone. You know what I mean?
I wish you'd find a higher and better use, but sure.
Well, but if I'm a storage unit guy, that is the higher and better use.
Yeah.
You know, I'm,
By the property if it wasn't zoned for it.
exactly. And they already bought it, and we're talking about taking that right away from them, in which case,
Then you're stuck with a piece of property. What are you gonna do? with it?
well, they
Yeah,
can
well,
probably do something else
yeah,
with
so-
it. I
Could
not.
use a drink shop or a car wash.
Family oriented business.
I mean, I'm sure you can. Yeah. I'm sure you can do something with it, but I don't know. I'm just not sure that it really, like, is that, like, if we're that upset of putting storage units in a manufacturing area, like, I don't know. To me,
Yeah.
I would be fine with them there. I don't think it's a problem at all.
Okay.
I mean, condition I think is fine if we want to put conditions on them, but
So you're thinking all three of them or just one of them or which of them?
I don't know. I'm not sure that I know where these are going to apply. Like, where's the actual MF, M1, and M2 zones going to be?
Oh, okay.
We have that, Matt?
Yeah. So MFB was, can you pull up our current zoning map? Or do you want, okay.
Is it
That's fine.
MFB? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Let's go to jonescivil.com.
Aren't you trying to simplify your zoning though, Jeff?
I'm simplified just by reducing the amount of zones we have in total. You can't simplify uses. Let's see here, where'd that map go? So right now, the area over by the hospital would be our MFB zone. So the hospital and then going west to I-15, that area is, and then where West Liberty and Multimill are the M1, M2, and then Auto Leave, all the way to the railroad tracks is M1. So if I was gonna do any zone, I'd do M1.
But like on 2000 West, what's that going to be?
Half of it's the Main Street code, half of it's M2.
The front half is the form-based code. Are we approving this tonight?
If
commercial
possible.
stuff?
If not. I can't really force you guys to approve anything, but, so, if there,
Ribus. We haven't actually made money off of planning commission yet.
hey, I offered to get you to Salt Lake and then I forgot to follow up with any of you about that, so the conference was really nice last week.
I wondered about that. I was like, that seemed like it should have been some
I put it in my
time.
calendar, but I couldn't go anyway, so it wasn't a huge loss for me.
Me either.
Honestly, I think I need to read it more.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking.
I'm,
So you're saying the water stuff we're not going to put in here? We're putting that in the business license component?
Yes.
But we are still requiring them to do the infrastructure demand report that would quantify some of that?
Yeah. And that'll be the base mark on whether we kind of know if they've gone over annually or not.
And that's what it's talking about, the permit required? The conditional use permit is gonna be required for every use? All permitted uses
Are you reading this?
shall obtain a site plan permit.
Yeah, which is just the site plan approval through DRC.
Okay.
Or if it's labeled as a conditional use permit, then you have to go through the steps that are in chapter 125.
What did you do with the slaughterhouse stuff? You took out the animals shall be limited to 100 animals in a 24-hour period? Because that's what they used to, oh, you just moved it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought having a whole paragraph of footnotes that were like size 8 font was a little unfair to anyone, so we put
Oh.
them into a paragraph that was to let them be further clarified.
So you just copied them down?
Yeah. But that way they're a little bit easier to read, and 'cause I've never liked when keynotes or
I personally don't know why. I mean, I guess it. Yeah, maybe it's fine. You know what I mean? I'm not sure why they can't be shown in the table. But I guess as long as it has a reference to down below, then it doesn't really matter. If you're diving into this, you can figure it out.
yeah, which is why we had the bold, but I'm not sure that's supposed to be bold. But it just references anything with an asterisk in the table is further referenced in that section.
Do you know why we don't allow the twin homes?
I don't understand the CD zone.
But I guess you're saying all that's going to be redone anyway?
Yeah, because the entirety of the CD zone is in the Main Street code,
Assuming we pass it.
assuming you pass it. If not, then yeah, we're gonna come in and clean up the commercial lot, because the CD zone right now is acting as a mixed-use zone. And that's, anyway, if the form-based code doesn't pass, then yes, there will be some,
Whether it does or doesn't pass, we'll have to modify this.
Yeah. but we can modify that once as part of giving it its own chapter number.
Are you guys ready to go through this, or you want to table it? I haven't really gone through it in great detail.
It's a lot.
Is a transportation impact study the same as a traffic study?
Pretty much, yeah. Which I could switch it over to be called the traffic impact study.
Yeah, might be ideal, just because
Or you
sometimes things get confusing. So the non-compliance thing under the water use capacity, should that be there or should that be in the business license deal?
I liked having it in there just so that as they're going through it, they'll understand the thing, but then we can set up in the business licenses what those fines are. So that way they're communicated to up front that that's a potential, but then we can update it through the business licensing where those fees and fines will be assessed.
Do they not recommend the form-based code for the manufacturing side? Because it's gonna be kind of weird to have, we have some of it old school and some of it the form-based code. You know what I mean? I just wondered if it will apply to one, why we couldn't add another chapter and just do away with this whole thing and have it all tied down in there.
I didn't know if we just wanted the whole city then to be designed off the same architectural palette.
Well, I thought the whole purpose of it was to kind of let the architects design whatever they wanted, just within
that scope.
yeah, within a design of, it's gotta have 2 stories and they gotta be these heights, minimum, maximums, but you can kind of do what you want. I don't know, that's why I haven't dove into it to know how it exactly applies, but
Yeah,
if it would be limited enough that,
most industrial buildings aren't exceedingly window heavy. So we could make a form-based code for industrial stuff, and honestly, those are architectural standards we could put into the industrial, which we actually do have some. I thought we did.
I just wondered, I was driving by the new RC Willey down off the freeway.
In Layton,
Have you seen it? Like, they came and cut the building down halfway, and they got some lower roofs and some different pitches and some different, it's like a huge monstrosity of a building, but it generally looks pretty cool because they did a bunch of that stuff.
yeah, but that's a commercial building. Like, I can't imagine having that many windows at West Liberty Foods.
No, I don't think we're really,
Guys, come look at our processing equipment.
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, if we can make them,
I mean, we do. We
Aesthetically,
yeah,
put
look nice, we have to stare at them forever.
so. I mean, we do have the architectural character for the MFB zones that we could expand to. That's
In here, you
section-
mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't go everything, it's not even close to what the form-based code is.
No.
Do we not think that that would be a similar, have other cities of that, what have they done? They've just picked and choose some of it and just done their downtown only?
Mostly they've tried to tie in what their like I know Clearfield did a code just along their main street, but Clearfield has a lot of industrial, and I don't know if they've ever done any architect standard, like form-based standards to that. So it's something we can definitely look at, but it's also taken about 7 months of to get the form-based code to where it is now. So I'd like to get some of these updates into code for the inland port, and we can work on doing more of a form-based industrial code. I can add that to my to-do list. I'll put that before the general plan and integrated land use plan updates, though.
Well, and I guess I was just bringing it up. I'm not sure which way is the best. I don't know that it, I guess, really matters as long as does what we're trying to have it do. You know what I mean? I'm not sure, I guess, what the big advantage either way is. Yeah, Clearfield looks like they have not put in the industrial stuff. But I don't know. For me, it's probably, I don't know what you guys feel like, but somebody's putting in like a 30-acre building. It's more critical to get that right than an individual house. For me, you know what I mean? 'Cause it's like the house is small enough, we can actually tweak it over time if it has an ugly color or an ugly facade. But if you build a 30-acre building, like it just doesn't change that quickly, and it is so expensive, you know? Just my gut.
Take this one they put out here in Garnet, you know,
Lake Shore.
yeah, I mean, I know some people don't like it and all that, but it's a nice looking building.
Yeah, it's
You know,
not
and it's got
bad.
nice, landscaping out front, and, you know, so. I don't know how much that was driven by their company versus code for the city.
Yeah, I don't think there was any code generally from the city side, so I think they just did what they wanted to do. My gut, but I don't know. But if somebody wanted to build an ugly building, could they? I mean, based on the way this is written,
You couldn't stop.
Like a thatch roof.
I'm just talking like a big, just huge
Metal building.
metal
I know.
shell, or even just a concrete building. that
Presidential library.
I mean, you are gonna talk, you will be talking to the wrong guy, cause I think architectural concrete, is the best looking finish, so tilt up with a, like, I think concrete gray is a wonderful color, I don't know what.
Well, I don't mind the color, and I don't mind the concrete buildings, but I don't know if you've noticed some of them down on, as you're going to Salt Lake, some of them have put in, you know, just little strips of different colors, and they've put windows in certain places that I think make them look,
Just offset it.
yeah, just make it look so much better, and it wouldn't really cost all that much. But from a developer standpoint, if they're coming in and like it's gonna cost them an extra $1 million to paint a different color in 40 places, they're not gonna do it unless we make them.
Yeah.
Why would they do it? I mean, you know what I mean? It's just extra cost for what?
Well, I like on West Liberty Foods, they did all their downspouts a different color, so like as those are coming down, it actually breaks up
Sections, yeah.
sections of the building a little bit, and I'm like, that's pretty much as far as you get along with sheet metal for changes in color. So I'm happy to go back and see what other architectural, and we could change section 35 in this to just be for all the industrial zones that they have to have these standards. Did you guys read through them?
Section 35?
1.08.035. Now, I will say
Oh.
whoever was doing this numbering didn't count well, because there's two of them in a row, and that would be me. So it should be 040, but it isn't, which is another. Learn to count.
I was just thinking if it all kind of was similarly like patterned, that, you know, you have the use table of what's allowed, and then we have the building types, just like you're doing in the form-based code, the building types that are allowed in those same
In those
industrial
yeah.
areas, unless there's a reason to not to.
And that could be the exception, you know, you could get a special exception for, because, you know, they might need something that
Doesn't fit.
quite fit, but it's not being the whole building, it might just be a certain part of that building, but the rest of the building would, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I don't know, like, I can't tell you right now what
Wouldn't work.
I would like to see if somebody was gonna build a 30-acre building behind my house. But I'm sure that somebody has put together that code that would make it be less intrusive and less ugly.
The thing about it is I feel like if any business is coming in, if you're building a new building, I think most people are kind of like, well, if we're putting effort in, let's make it look decent. Like, and it is their brand. And in America, we mostly care about what a brand looks like because we're not going to associate with it
What if my brand
is to be ugly.
is different than your brand?
Yeah.
Steampunk
You mean next to
garage
each other?
sale garbage
Yeah,
dump.
just like
look.
what is the definition of that? Like, because I mean, of course, we have in here that says it needs to be aesthetically pleasing and fit in, but
Well, and
what does
that's,
that mean?
what does that mean? You can't tell anybody what that means.
Well, that's exactly what the form code
That's what
is
he's saying
doing.
is the code.
That's the form code is saying, not only do,
Specifically, this,
yeah, that we're saying, okay, we're telling you exactly where you can build it, exactly where the parking can be, exactly how tall each floor can be, minimum and maximum, exactly what materials you can use, exactly where you can build the building on your lot. Do you know what I
So
mean?
you're saying that you're in favor of having that same
Thing apply to
form-based
commercial.
code to just industrial manufacturing?
Well, I just think if any place we ought to get it right, it's probably there. A lot of this stuff is,
This is strictly just for the Main Street stuff.
Yes.
But if we're gonna talk about it at all,
well, and it's just weird, feels like weird to have like, we have one section for the commercial industrial that's all vague and hard, doesn't have any teeth to it. But our home local town people and the commercial downtown, we are gonna put the frickin' screws to you. Do you know what I mean? If you wanna build downtown, you gotta do exactly what we're gonna tell you to do. But if you're gonna build a 30-acre building we have to stare at forever, we don't even care. You know what I mean? Like, should it not be like quantified?
So if we table this and we look at every huge building in the next 2 weeks, could we come up with some actual,
And the only caution I would throw at you is if we get a big industry come in like that, let's not scare them away with our code too.
Sure.
So we gotta be really careful.
Well, and it's not just that, it's the downtown people, it's the same, all of this needs to, it's not just those people.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? We need to make sure that all of them are gonna not scare everybody away. But we also need to make sure that whatever we do there, we're gonna be okay with, and we're gonna be able to live with if they do our minimum standards.
Because you can always allow for an exception if it's,
Yeah,
within
but that never
well,
works.
And you do that,
that's true.
you allow for everyone. And
Yeah, that's
so,
true.
ugh.
Well, and the exceptions are really messy, because if
Yeah,
somebody
it's-
comes in, you know
You let
exactly,
me, yeah.
well, you know what's gonna happen. Anybody comes in and does anything, and then half the city shows up, they're upset, and
Yeah,
then
the other-
exceptions are
That's true.
out of the picture, you know? I make a motion, we table it to the next meeting, and we'll look at, and see what other cities have done. Maybe the form-based code is a reason we shouldn't do it with industrial, I don't know.
so making a motion to table, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded that we table the discussion and consideration of chapter 1.08, commercial and industrial zone district, until next meeting.
Okay.
All in favor, say yes.
yes?
Yes. All opposed? The motion passes. Now, Planning Commission comments and reports.
You have your lunch, the Maddox, right?
Yep.
I saw that.
Maddox, what's the date
I'm
on
not-
that again?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be able to attend.
December
so-
3rd.
December 3rd.
Third.
We must have moved on.
Sure did.
Although, just,
Would it be better to act like we were going and then, okay. I'm gonna act like I'm going.
I will act like I'm going.
I'm really gonna go. I hope.
Yeah,
That's great. Hope you go.
sounds good.
I know we've had this conversation before, but what's the give and take about spending our money in Tremont?
Doesn't matter.
They've already scheduled it there, and so that's where we're gonna go, and. if
Staying with
that's where we
Box
wanna-
Elder County.
Unless you guys wanna go somewhere, or if you wanna hold a party here, whatever you wanna do. You guys work hard, and we wanna make sure that we recognize you in any way we can.
Jay Bryan's does some major to good smoked meats. That's all I'm saying. And if I don't have to travel, and if I don't, let's just say, if I don't have to travel at all, basically, that'd be awesome. But no, it's what it is. I'm just
You're the commission, you
Just
can
be
decide
part of
what you wanna do.
part of my shtick in the past and my, what made me unpopular, I guess, in some circles is, yeah, if we're gonna spend money from the city, let's spend it in Tremont.
I couldn't agree more, honestly, so. But,
And there is good food. I mean, Jay Bryan is good food.
where would you go eat? Does he have a place for everyone to sit down and
we just have a
socialize?
cater here.
No, they bring it here. But if you're gonna get a steak too at Maddox,
It's still a good amount of money.
it's a good amount of money, but it's not even about the money. It's like if it's about just meat, if you're wanting good cuts, good meat, man, Okay, Brian's as good as any.
Is there a conflict of interest there? No, I'm just kidding.
No, Brent, stop. Stop. You can't say that, and you can't comment. Just kidding.
Okay.
But anyway, any other comments, reports?
So did we make a decision on that, or what are we doing?
That was just my voice.
I think we should talk to
everybody's
Tiffany about it
generally-
later.
I think everybody's generally in favor of going to Maddox, and I'm a stickler in the sand.
Well, I think it just you have more options. Like some people aren't going to necessarily want steaks. You can get fish, you can get chicken strips, you can get whatever you want. And supporting Box Elder.
You
in
don't
my
want
mind-
meat, I'm sorry. You are not invited.
I'm just saying, not everybody would probably eat the same thing per se. And in my opinion, like if we're supporting Box Elder County, that is
Good enough?
just about as close as it possibly gets to Tremont, you know. But I'm open to whatever too. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm not that picky.
And I don't feel like I should have an opinion because I'm not sure I'll make it, so we'll see.
I'm going to be there, so I've put it down for Maddox.
He's excited too.
Don't even get me started, man. Maddox, I'm just saying. If I could have
City.
ground turkey versus a real why?
Okay,
Oh,
we'll have this conversation later.
Hey, I did want to add, I've recently driven through the inland port and Spanish Fork, the big inland port development down there, and it's really impressive. It's, the building types are all quite similar, so it goes together. And so I don't know what they've done down there, but it works down there.
I looked through Spanish Forks, sorry to interrupt. I looked through Spanish Forks code. I couldn't find anything architectural wise like
That they required.
what they required.
Speaking of
Yeah.
that, when is it vested? Is it invested upon the annexation application? It's vested.
Tested when they submit something for approval.
Okay. Okay. So we've got a minute.
Good.
I just also don't want our agendas looking like one tabled item after the next either.
It's true. It's true. We're gonna get there.
Um,
I make a motion we adjourn.
Well, the only other thing I would suggest is continue to take these, study them offline, and I'm saying this to the city council too, right? And be well prepared when you come here that you know what you're talking about and you're ready to discuss it. That could help a little bit.
Well, it could definitely help.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
And moved. No need for a second.
There isn't?
I second it.